Bugs Bunny is dead, Finn is dead, and Velma has been deleted from the roster. That's what you guys came here to hear, right? You're welcome. Alright, Chief, I'm gonna go ahead and sign out. My work is done here. All jokes aside, welcome back to the channel. LC here with a breakdown for the first Multiversus patch that just rolled out a few hours ago. Today we'll be discussing who the de facto winners and losers are from this patch. In just a moment, we'll take a look at each character and adjustments that they receive. But first, let's go over some general changes. To start with, when you boot the game up, you're now greeted with a brand new splash screen featuring both Black Adam and Stripe, which will apparently be joining the roster sometime during Season 1. And then jumping over to the Battle Pass, this gives us an idea of how long we can expect each season to run. With this one running from 8/9 to 11/15, it looks like they're definitely going to be following the standard every 3-month cycle that most games also emulate. And looking through the Battle Pass, it actually looks like we have our first winner here. For premium Battle Pass holders anyway. Now the financial implications are yours to consider, but it looks actually like it's pretty chock full of a lot of ring out animations, banners, and a few cosmetic skins, which seem to be a pretty decent value, all things considered. That was one of the 5 major changes that we put in our last video that I'd like to see, with some of the battle pass and stuff like that. And it looks like this has 50 tiers, so that's good. Let me know down in the comments if you plan on getting the battle pass. And while you're down there, make sure you drop a like and a sub so you don't miss any upcoming Multiversus videos. And moving on, we have some pretty general game mechanic changes, including some perk buffs and nerfs, and a few UI and gameplay changes. I'll leave a link to the full changelog if you want to peruse that a bit. And a quick FYI, I won't be going over every little detail, only what I sincerely think will impact the character and their overall playability and game plan. Some characters like Harley and Steven barely got any adjustments on this front, so they won't be included here. Okay, so let's get into what everybody's here for, character adjustments. Starting with Arya. Baby girl walked away with nothing but pure buffs on her first time out on the balance patch roulette machine. Her air and ground specials have been updated to launch at a more consistent angle for follow-up attacks. Her up attack now will also accurately combo into her second hit of her neutral attack. Her air up attack will also now more accurately combo into the second hit. That was something that kind of really annoyed me. It seemed like they always consistently fell out of that. They also adjusted how her air neutral attack, it now has an easier branching hit. So both of those adjustments to her aerial attacks I think are really good. And then moving on to some ground attacks, her ground side attack will now retain velocity on its first hit, which I think is very good. Her ground down attack now has slightly earlier dodge branching as well, and to close her out, they finally fixed her neutral special bug where she takes the opponent's face. It will now consistently overwrite the stolen character's neutral attack, and her hurt boxes have also been adjusted to reflect this as well. That was something that was really buggy. Sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't work, so it seems like it's every time. I did it like 10 times in a row, and it looks like it's working consistently now. And according to the patch notes, the main goal that they had with Arya's combos was to make them more consistent and successful at lower skill levels. And I definitely think they nailed it with this. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. And on to the Lord of the Night, Bruce Wayne. My man got slightly tapped with that nerf bat. It looks like they finally did fix that horrific grapple glitch that had been plaguing players since launch. And they fixed the velocity if a player dodges. We all know, he would go off the screen and stuff like that. It looks like that no longer happens. They also added 3 frames of recovery to his ground side attack, which in my opinion is pretty reasonable. And it will definitely make that move a bit less spammable. And on to the big one, they've added a bit more cooldown from the Batarang, down from 9.45 to 11.45, which means that if you pick up the Batarang, you'll still have a few frames of cooldown. That's a massive change. This will naturally be offset with things like CoffeeZilla and they actually have that in the patch notes, but this means now he has to actually burn a whole perk slot in order to get that instant Batarang, so that's a pretty major change for the Dark Knight fans out there. Overall, kind of more of a normalization than an alright nerf. But it's kit, but I would still say overall that's kind of a L. And then moving on, ladies and gentlemen, we have our first dead body, Mr. Bugs Bunny. Well, we can't say we didn't see this one coming. This character was easily the best in the game and had a bit too many powerful options at his disposal at almost all times. So to start with, double rockets are gone for both horizontal and vertical usage. Good riddance. There was also a glitch that allowed Bugs to occasionally summon multiple safes with no cooldown. This has also been patched. I personally never stumbled upon this, but based off the footage, it looks pretty insane to fight again, so I'm glad that's gone. And then moving on to his aerial options, this is definitely where the nerf bat was swung the hardest. His up and down aerial normals have been given additional recovery frames on whiff, and this is instantly noticeable. It will definitely affect his aerial dominance. That mallet is crazy and that bat used to be insane. No more stuff like this. Also, his aerial side attack has been given whiff recovery as well, so in his aerial game, absolute yikes, he's been quite normalized. And to close it out for Bugs Bunny, his pies is apparently supposed to not inflict slow anymore, but it still kind of does. I don't know if this is just an oversight or what, but for now, he's definitely one of the biggest losers on this list. And then jumping from one corpse to another, we have Lord Finn, who has been normalized quite a bit as well. Starting with his passive, if you have an attack that is experiencing attack decay, it will no longer spawn coins of any type. kind of a sleeper change, but this is definitely going to impact him heavily in the long run. If you like to mash the same sequence over and over again, you are no longer going to get coins. His air down special's gold cost has been corrected, and it now only requires 100 for it to spawn. Very good. His air side special has also been given a little bit of a whiff recovery. It's kind of a fast move, but I don't think that should be too bad. I think it's still pretty good, even with the whiff recovery. And then on to the one that everyone's been waiting for, that backpack maneuver has been adjusted significantly. Weaker hits of the backpack will no longer overwrite stronger knockbacks from other attacks. You will still lose coins even on a whiff, and they added some pretty noticeable whiff recovery, and it looks like the hitboxes have been somewhat normalized. All welcome changes. That move is going to be far less dominant and far less janky. You know what I mean? What you see on the screen is kind of what you're going to get now. And moving on, his ground down attack has now been adjusted to scale with how long you charge attack. I actually really like this change. So if you charge it a bit longer, he goes a further distance. And it also has been given a bit of whiff recovery as well. And just in closing, when it comes to Finn, I definitely think he's in a loser category for this. But based off his overall kit, he's still going to be more than competent in the right hands. I don't think he's like gutter selection anymore. I think he's still going to be really good. And then moving on to Lady Garnet, her neutral special, both versions, have a much earlier startup from 12 frames down from 30. I actually already thought it was kind of fast. I tested it pre-patch, but 12 frames is really fast. This is definitely going to help her against opponents that really rely on heavy projectile usage, like the Batarang, and her neutral attack also has a slightly base knockback as well. Overall, pretty good adjustments for her. She's going to be a winner here. And then moving on to Big Papa Pump, Iron Giant. His changes are kind of all over the place. Starting with his down special, aka the Cannonball, you can no longer utilize his move when you're out of air specials, which is kind of the way it should have always been. And it also has a kind of a unique animation now, kind of like the arrow pointing down, so it's clear exactly where he's going to land at. I think it's pretty cool. And one of the key significant changes to a lot of the roster was how Gray Health is handled. His Gray Health activation has been reduced from 2 bolts from 5 seconds to being dependent on the number of bolts he has per HP for 3 seconds. So that's going to be some adjustments. There's also some adjustments for Gray Health with Velma. So it looks like they're trying to definitely make sure we're not in a Gray Health meta. There was a lot of complaints about that at EVO, like, oh, the Gray Health and stuff like that. It looks like they're definitely taking a look at that as well. On to some of his attacks. His air up attack, it states it can no longer hit the same target multiple times. But unless I'm missing something, it doesn't appear that that's true. Maybe the wording of it's just off, because I can definitely hit the same character like 3 times in a row. Maybe they mean in teams. This is definitely one of his best KO tools, so I'm kind of hoping they didn't adjust that too badly, but it could get kind of stupid. You know, it's a pretty good hitbox, but we'll see. I'll come back to that. His air neutral attack has also been adjusted to knock opponents away from him in a more horizontal manner. A few of his attacks have been done like that as well, to make his opponents go more horizontal, which I think is a good change. I think when opponents are vertical above the Iron Giant, they can get back to him a bit faster. Horizontal, they have a bit more travel time to get back to him. I think that's a good change for him overall. And then on to a bit more Gray Health stuff. When you consume scrap, they have reduced that down from 3 HP to 2 HP, and instead of 5 seconds, it's going to be for 3 seconds, so much less powerful. And overall, just for the adjustment for Iron Giant, I would say it's kind of a mixed bag. I mean, some of the Gray Health changes definitely are going to hurt him, but I don't think that it's going to really impact his game plan too much. So for now, he just gets a question mark. A lot of that's going to remain to be seen. And then on to Jake the Snake, with only 2 changes in his arsenal. He got to change his air down attack, the skateboard move. It's been adjusted so you can no longer instantly cancel out of it. This is to prevent skateboard infinites, which were pretty prevalent. And also his ground up attack on the ground has been given some whiff recovery, and it also had his charge cancel window change. Not bad adjustments, but I'm gonna say that's definitely a loss overall. Not like majors though. I think he's still pretty potent, pretty powerful, but a loss overall for sure. And then jumping over to the ball player, Lebron. Right out the gate, this man got a pretty nasty nerf to his side special on the ground and in the air, which no longer produces that very large shockwave on hit. This can now only be triggered with an alley-oop when performed via an ally. Big ol' yikes, that's definitely gonna hurt a lot of those spammers out there. They also adjusted his ground and air down special to prevent ball spam and infinites and stuff like that. And his air side and neutral attacks now branch earlier on hit. His air side attack actually had his hitbox adjusted just a little bit. I think that was one of those more wacky like hitboxes in the air. It's been adjusted a bit more, a bit normalized, and it says it's also easier to combo with now. And then on to his ground side attack, this has been adjusted to hit a bit more consistently. This is a welcome change, as this was just one of the more like visually like janky moves, and sometimes it would hit, sometimes it wouldn't, but it's been somewhat normalized. And I definitely like that. But overall, when it comes to LeBron, that whole dunk nerf is definitely going to hurt. Especially for the casuals. The casuals probably love that. So I gotta say that's probably a bit of a loss, honestly. And then on to Reindog, he only had 3 adjustments, starting with his air up special, in which he curls into a ball and his ally can toss him. It no longer has that hit pause, which looked really strange, and visually it looks much better. His neutral special also had its cooldown increase from 13 to 14 seconds, not really a biggie, and his air up attack had its hitbox size increase. Now I kind of wish that they made that like more of a consistent KO move, because now you have to use air down attack in order to really KO people, and you're trying to chase people in the air with Reindog. That move's still not that great for that. It doesn't kill. Like, I've tried to kill people at like 90, 100%. It still won't kill them. So kind of wish they would have done that, but maybe in the next patch. And then moving on to one of the co-founders of Mystery Inc., we have Shaggy. This man definitely got some nerfs, and the casuals are absolutely going to hate this, honestly. But Shaggy is like one of those characters that's very simple, you know what I mean? And one of his best tools just got gutted, essentially. His side special, both enraged and normal, both have additional whiff recovery, which means if you're just trying to do that kick over and over again, you are definitely going to get clapped now. So be careful with doing that. It was kind of noticeable from my testing for sure. He's also been given a weakened debuff in his Rage Ground special, which is very good, but not enough to compensate for that nerf that he just got. So I'm gonna have to say L overall. So let's talk about Lord Soups. He was given a bit of additional whiff recovery on both his ground neutral attack and his ground up attack. This was not as noticeable as some of the other adjustments that I've seen, but it will make it a bit less spammy. So these are welcome additions for sure. And his ground down special also has been given some additional whiff recovery. So I think that's a pretty welcome change as well. If you thought that this change is gonna, have some adjustments for his command grab and it was gonna stop him from, grabbing you by the throat and just, toss you into the heavens, that's not the patch for this. So you gotta kind of still deal with that. So overall, I think this is it's fine. He did get some adjustments, but I would say it's negligible. Now Taz is another character who actually got another wall of text when it comes to adjustments. Let's start off with his chicken debuff. Now, if you're turning to a chicken, the size of the actual chicken has increased dramatically. However, the duration has been lowered from 10 to 8 seconds, but you're way easier to hit now. Like, you can definitely get hit quite easily now. His down special, where he kind of like spits that apple out, is more horizontal now instead of kind of a standard lob. And then moving on to his air ground special, they made it a bit easier to eat some projectiles, and you can actually do it a bit earlier now in the activation. He will also deal a weakened debuff for every enemy that he chews and stuff like that. For every time he chews them, it's another stack of weaken. So pretty good change as well. Jumping over to his up special, the knockback has been reduced and its overall damage as well. I didn't really think that needed to be nerfed. I thought that was one of his better tools for sure. And then moving on to the dreaded tornado. This has been reworked to be a 7-second cooldown move that has a 1.5 second duration when you actually use it. That duration can actually be increased a little bit when you pass an ally. That's pretty good as well. And in closing, his ground up attack is now a 2-hit attack. Overall, when it comes to Taz, a bit of a mixed bag. So for now, I'm going to have to give it the question mark. And then sliding over to Tom and Jerry, they also got some pretty slight adjustments, with Dynamite now getting projectile perk effects. In his air normal attacks, it was a glitch where he could no longer perform his air normal attacks after a certain point. That's being fixed as well. And also his air up special no longer has active hit frames on Jerry while he is falling. So pretty good adjustment for him. And then on to another possible dead body we have here, Velma Dinkley, who has been adjusted quite heavily. Starting with her air side special, this was actually my go-to recovery with her, but the overall distance that you travel has been significantly reduced. Kind of a yikes. So this means her recovery game is going to definitely, it's going to suck now. Her air up special has been reduced to no longer easily chain into down aerial smash attacks. I think that whole sequence is a little too easy to pull off and KO opponents with. Her ground side special also had its gray health reduced from 12 HP for 4 seconds down to 6 HP for 3 seconds. Again, gray health nerfs. Her aerial down attack now has greater recovery, and her air side attack now has whiff recovery. I tested both these moves out. The side special didn't seem that noticeable. It seems like you can still kind of get away with that, but the down attack definitely was pretty noticeable. If you throw that out and you whiff, you're definitely going to get punished. And then now on to the big one. Her neutral attack has been reduced from 4 to 3. She can only throw out 3 of those bubbles now, and the cooldown has been reduced from 11 to 10. That's pretty big. I thought 4 was a little too much, but we'll see how the 3 thing pans out. She's still pretty annoying. She still has her megaphone that goes all the way across the screen. But I gotta say, overall, a pretty massive L, which was necessary. I mean, look at the Evo top 8. That was gonna happen. And to close us out, we have the goddess of Themyscira, Diana. Now, she had some pretty decent buffs, all things considered. Her neutral special, the lasso, has been reduced from 13 seconds cooldown to 12 seconds. And her ground side special now comes out a bit earlier, which is really good to help with the projectile spam. And her weight has been increased from 65 to 76, which should help with a bit of her knockback and help her fit the tank class a bit better. I always thought it was a little weird that she died kind of early for being in the tank class, And that'll do it for our grand list of winners and losers from today's patch. Let me know what you thought of all the changes down in the comments, and more importantly, did your character survive the purge? Till next time, LC signing out, peace.